Hello everyone, my name is Toma from Bonciu.com, and today I'm going to show you how to creatively edit a photo that looks like this. There are lots of moments when the forest looks spectacular. This is a photo took during a beautiful autumn morning, and as you can see, there are colors in the trees, and there is also the green of the pine trees that offers some contrast. And for some reason you find something similar with a tree or a group of trees like this that stands out in the chaos of the forest. You took the photo, you edited in Lightroom, but although it's a clean photo and it's technically correct, it respects the rule of thirds and other stuff, but it's not an interesting enough photo for me, and that is why I want to show you a simple creative editing method that works, and that is using motion blur to blur the rest of the forest and keep this group of trees a little bit more in sharp than the other elements, and this will make the photo much more interesting. Now, this technique works better with trees that are straight, that have trunks like this. I tried to apply it with twisted trees, and it's not working that well. So let's get going. First of all, you need to duplicate this layer. You can do this by in multiple ways. You can drag it over this icon over here of create new layer. You can hit Ctrl J. You can do all sorts of methods. Okay, with this new layer selected, we go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and we need a blur with an angle of 90 degrees, so it's a vertical blur. And here the distance depends from photo to photo. It's not something fixed. It depends on what effect you are looking for. I'm looking for something that looks like this, where I have these white trunks, and you can see that it's a forest, but if I go further, you can't distinguish the shapes, and you can't guess what is going on. So I'm stopping about here. Hit OK, and now you just, with this layer selected, you just create a mask for this layer. Click on the mask, click on the brush tool, or hold down the B shortcut, select a black color, and start with a really low opacity. I will start at 30%. I know where these trees are, so I'm just painting in the masks to reveal these trees. And now, as you can see, you now see the trees, but it looks odd. The image it's off completely because it's a very hard definition between motion blur and sharpness. So this is an area where you can see the detail, and this you can't see the detail, but there is no blending between those two, and that is why it looks odd. It looks weird. So I'm switching to white and to a 10% opacity, and I'm working to reintegrate this area that I've painted. And as you can see, I'm using a really low opacity brush. I'm also switching to a lower size. Okay, and now I'm switching back to black, holding down. I'm maintaining the opacity of 10%, and I'm trying to bring back some more details, but just as a hint, Here I'm going to paint with white to lose the details. So it's only a game of suggesting details and blurring details. It's up to you how you'll use it. And I have to admit, it's not an easy technique to apply in order to get something that looks interesting, because just like in every photo, we are always talking about a balance, an equilibrium, and in every photo. And landscape photos are pretty hard to or in a landscape photo, it's pretty hard to succeed without having that equilibrium, that perfect balance, because it's shown much more easily. The subject, sometimes it's not that strong enough, and that is why you need different elements. As you can see, I've painted the image and I'm kind of letting the detail coming out through the blur, but in this case of the trees over here, you can see much more of a detail. Now I'm going to go further with the edit, and I'm going to add a brightness and contrast adjustment layer and increase a little bit of brightness and just a little bit of contrast. And I'm doing this by looking at this group of trees over here. Now I'm adding another brightness, dim down the brightness, increase the contrast, use a soft brush with an opacity of 100%, and I'm painting these trees over here. And after this, I'm switching to a bigger brush and to a really low opacity of 10%, and now I'm trying to reintegrate this this spot of light, this area where I've added light. I'm trying to reintegrate it into the overall image. And first of all, I'm doing this to add some attention, or more attention, on this group of trees over here. But then I'm going to paint in the same layer. Now I've made a reintegration. Now I'm going to switch to an opacity of 5%, paint with white, and now I'm adding darkness again. And I'm going to add darkness in different areas because I want to create contrast areas. I want different things to pop more. And in my workshops, I always talk about this this rule of contrast. That is basically a rule that I've seen in paintings where a black or a darker area is placed on a lighter background and vice versa. So you need to create contrast areas, but you also need to be careful not to overdo it, and because it will look false, and that is why I'm using a really low opacity over here. It's really easy to overdo it. Okay, now what I'm going to do next is add another brightness, increase the brightness and the contrast a little bit more. No, I think I'm going to delete this one and go with the curves. Okay, let's increase the brightness a little bit and decrease the darkness in order to create contrast, and I'm going to raise this black point just a little bit. Okay, and another curves, I'm going to do like this, and then control backspace to fill this with black, and with a white brush and a really low opacity of about 10%, I'm going to, let's go to 30%. I'm going to paint these trunks over here. Okay, so let's take a look at the initial image. This was the initial photo, and by adding this effect, you're obtaining an image that I think it's much more interesting, that can speak a lot more about your subject and can focus a lot more on your subject. It also have let's say something of a painting look, or it can be compared with a painting. It wasn't my goal, but the result looks like this. So I hope you like this tutorial. I hope you find this technique useful and you will apply it with success on your own photos. You can also check out my pro editing tutorials on SkillFit. I'll put a link right on this video, and also I will place a link in the description of this video to my profile. SkillFit is not expensive, and you can also look at my own tutorials and other tutorials as well. I'm trying to develop a profile there, and I think this is the cheapest way I can offer you pro tutorials with my, I don't know, let's say my best editing techniques. Keep subscribing to this YouTube channel. Please share it with your friends. And until next time, keep on photographing is the only way that you can get better. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.